I'm ready when you are.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Rolling now.
Okay, Dennis, just want to ask you first of all about the Cray twins and how what was your first encounter with the Krays? How did you get to know them?
First time I met the Krays was in the Hackney Barriers dance hall. It was just a dance hall where they used to dance to records. And apparently there was a chap in there, I found out later, his name Roy Harvey and his girlfriend. They had some problems, I don't know what it started over. But when we came out of the club, it was about 10-handed of the Krays, and they had him down on the ground kicking him. They were trying to steal this jacket he had on. It was like an American pilot's jacket that his brother brought home for him with the Merchant Navy apparently. And that was all. And then I was with a friend of mine called Wally, a school friend, and they turned on us like a forensic mob. I ran down the road with them 10-handed, and fortunately for me I had some small change in my pockets of the overcoat, and it fallen out when I stopped to pick the change up. So we go down the road further to Mare Street, so that's in Hackney, and then the police car pulls us over, thought we were part of this crowd, and they take us back to the police station, took our names, etc., had a few people in there. And when they realised we weren't anything to do with the crowd, with the attackers, they let us go. Well, it would have blown over this case, but apparently the girlfriend of this Roy Harvey was going to give evidence against one of them or some of them, and they went around and cut her face with a razor, or someone did. Well, I don't think the police, public headlines and lump in the Star evening papers, and then apparently they were charged. I was subpoenaed to court, and Wally was subpoenaed to court, but at the Old Bailey asked me to recognise the Krays. I said, I can't tell the difference. It was a mob, you can't tell who's who, and I know I didn't recognise them. Wally said the same, and they were acquitted of that, and that's all. I never saw them again for a number of years, and I just used to nod to them and bumped into Ronnie Kray in the Dorchester Hotel. I was with some people, and that was all I had to do with them until when I was serving my life sentence. They were in the security block with me in the Isle of Wight. I spent 7 years with them after that period, and I got to know them very well, obviously.
What were they like as inmates? Did they have a realistic view on life? With regards to their sentence, 30 years is a long time.
Well, I don't think that came into it. There were two different entities actually. Like Ronnie was gay. He knew that, he admitted it. All he was interested in young boys in life. Reggie was the same really, but never admitted it. But after it came out later. But as I say, no, Ronnie was definitely psychopathic. I remember once in the security block, they used to bring you medication up on a tray and put it down in the evening, and you just take it off the tray with your name on it. And I had a flu at the time. I took Ronnie's by mistake. I was in bed for 2 days, crashed out, and he used to take 3 of those a day, so I don't know what happened. Whatever it was, really, I was totally out of it. But no, as I say, there were two different entities. Reggie thought he was like a reincarnation of Al Capone. He'd go out to the main prison on escort for dentists. It don't matter who it was, it might be an old tramp or something. So, hello, I'm Reggie Kray. But it's strange, but that's all. But a myth built up around them, and to this day it's still a myth.
Just jumping back a little bit, that case where you didn't recognise them, did they thank you? When they saw you for the first time in prison?
No, it never arose actually. It was years after. I was only about 15, 16 at that period. Well, I didn't meet them till say 15, 16 years later. So really only said hello. Wally was more acquainted with them than I, because he was involved with a chap called Joe Wilkins in the nightclub. They were on the 400 Club and that, and the Krays used to frequent that. But me, I lived abroad most of my life, you see, so I didn't have a lot to do with them.
What brought you up to the northeast of England?
When I first escaped from Wormwood Scrubs, I thought, where's the biggest city? Where won't they look for you? And I started business in a place called Pink Lane, a textile company. from there I started, and then
What
till
year?
I was recognised, that was 1966. No, 56, beg your pardon. And then I was recognised, and my co-accused, we went to London. He was captured at a boarding house, and old women recognised him because we were all in the papers. And I ended up going to the West Indies in Trinidad, where I was recaptured later.
Newcastle obviously made an impression on you then when you came up here and you set up that business before you were recaptured. So what was it, what was it that made you come back here? Because obviously you live in the northeast of England now.
I met a girl up here who I later married, and I had a daughter, and she lives up here. So I was inclined to be attracted. She visited me when I was in prison, when I came back after the exposition, and it was just natural. I like the people, I like the area. Like the crack, as you put it.
The 60s in Newcastle hasn't really been well documented. So what was 60s Newcastle like? What was the nightclub scene like? What was
it was heaving. You had all the top clubs. I mean, the Dolce Vita was very good.
Sorry, can I stop you? Sorry, I've got a scratching dog in the background. And because you talk quite low, because you talk quite quietly.
Let me turn that bump.
I'm getting a mixture of both.
Get it all out now, son.
As you said that, I heard the oven going.
Yeah.
So he starts scratching. You think he's going to eat? You think? Go and sit down. Go and sit down, please.
Yeah, so touching on the, are you ready? Are you?
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, you just sort of started talking about
the
60s
60s,
Newcastle.
Yeah. Just obviously describing the 60s clubland and what was it like to socialise in Newcastle in the 1960s?
Well, in the 60s, well, that's when I came up the second time. It was very good. You've got the top artists up here, and you had a club, more or less in Leeds area, called the Batley Variety Club. You used to go to all the top American artists, and then they come to the Dolce Vita also plays that. And the girl I was with at the time, Selena Jones, she was a very well-known artist. She was top of the pops, etc. And she's still singing to this day, actually. And when I came out, I met this guy, unfortunately called Vince Lander. And I was attracted. I had a club in London at the time. Believe it or not, it was a gay club. And my two friends, or one of my friends was gay, and he lived with this guy for years, and they asked me to put money up into the club, the Londoners Club. This Lander came into the club one day, asked if I'd like to come up to the northeast. This was in the 60s, because they knew of me through the past, in the 50s. So unfortunately I did. I sold up and came up to the northeast. I think it's the biggest mistake I made in my life.
With regards to you touched on the Dolce Vita already. Yeah. There was the Dolce Vita. There was the Birdcage. I mean, what were those places like? What was the interior like?
I don't know.
Were all the same? Were all the clubs the same?
I had a Piccadilly club I used to run, which is a warehouse. In fact, Bob Monkhouse bought it later. And funny enough, he wrote in his book. He said when he appeared at the club when I was running it, he was called to the office by the manager. He said, "How long is your show?" Monkhouse said, "Well, hour and a half." And the manager said, "Cut it down to an hour. I want them in the casino, not listen to you sing." And he said, "It's a good thing I took note. It turned out to be Dennis Stafford." He said, "I looked into those cold grey eyes. I mean, I don't even remember the incident, so it's another bit of myth." That's the way.
Mm-hmm. We had, what these were all the clubs quite similar though? Was it all just entertainment focused?
The main one at the time was the 69 club, the Dolce Vita rather. The 69 was Joe Lye had, and it was a nice entertainment club. All the clubs were good. There were cabarets, and there were so many working men's clubs at the time, which I used to do the bookings for. That was my main concern. I used to book for about 200 clubs, and that's all I didn't have anything to do with the machine side of the business. It's just the entertainment side. So I was in that field, more or less. But there was a lot of talent up here at the time, and a lot used to come up here. Tom Jones, Humperdinck, all of them, Dinah Dawes used to come up, all these people.
Obviously the stories about the Krays visit in Newcastle, there's countless stories. What's your take and what was...
Well, the take is a lot of people live on the reputation of the Krays, a lot of them never met them. They might have the odd photo of them, but I don't think they knew them intimately. But what happened with the Krays, I got a phone call from the 69 club because the Krays were outside and Joe Lyle wouldn't let them in. They just come off the train. There was about 5, 6 handed, if I recall. And they were only in Newcastle for about 3-4 hours maximum. They came off the train. They came to the 69 club. I saw Reggie outside. Hello, I shook hands. He said, "What?" I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Oh, we've got problems. Can't get into the clubs." He said, "Anyone gets nicked here, there's going to be some bodies floating about." I explained. I said, "You know, this is not London. The Durham police, if they want you, they'll have you. And, you know, I suggest you wipe your mouth and forget it." With that, they went back to the station and got on the train and went back. But all these people that were up here for days, involved in this and that, it's a total fabrication.
Do you think the Krays were strong enough to basically come to places up and down the country? Do you think they had any intention of setting businesses up? Or are you aware of them setting any businesses up in Newcastle or links up?
They may have had visions, but I don't think they were capable. Basically, all the Krays ever done, in London for instance, they had a boxing club. And you see them, they used to hear of the person in prison with a reputation. So they'd have a whip round, send him some books, etc. When he came out, they'd invite him up for a meal, put a bird into him, or whatever it was, and that was it. And then they get him a job on the door of one of the drinkers or gambling clubs, and they would put the hand out and get £50, give him 20, so they're on £30 a week, and he's working for them for £20 a week. And that's how it built. I mean, if it stopped in the East End, I'm sure they would have been nicked or, you know, gone to prison for life. But, you know, this myth has been built out. Like the film they made shows you their club they had, a ballroom, etc. Well, the club they had was the front room of a Georgian house, you know. I mean, you see them on the film with submachine guns. They wouldn't even know how to load them. But it's just built up. The police are partly to blame because they want to make it more important because it's a bigger collar for them, as we permit. And that's it. And the press need maximum publicity. Well, they can't publicise someone who's an entity, so the myth is built up over the Krays. But basically, they were just, well, they love publicity. They got the photographs in most of stars, you know, Dinah Dawes, Barbara Windsor, people like that. And they say any box would come over, they get photos, but they're always very photo, I don't know, grabbing, for another word. And that was it. But basically, no, it's a complete myth of their fame, or infamy, whatever you want to term it.
So I mean, obviously the stories are that, you know, they came up at different times. Obviously, there's a photograph which, you know, we've seen of the Krays with Joe Louis up here. I mean, would that have been possibly a visit that you weren't aware of, and they've just come up and they've done a nightclub tour? Because that was the kind of thing that used to happen in the 60s, wasn't it? They used to come round and different celebrities would come up, and they might have just been associated with that particular tour.
Where was this one with Joe Louis?
Dolce Vita. It was taken in the Dolce Vita. 1967 is the date it's been given. And
No,
it was
67, they were in prison.
with Joe Louis. No, they got sent down. They got arrested in 68 and they went down in 69. So it would be the year prior to being arrested.
I'm terrible at
So,
that.
but Dolce Vita with Joe Louis.
That would be after, when they first come up and got turned away, because they came up mob-handed.
Right.
But if they come up with a celebrity after that, then, you know, I wouldn't doubt that they were there, but that's about all. But as far as coming up to take over, I don't think the North East people would have tolerated them. I mean, the straight businessman wouldn't even tolerate, like Joe Lyle, for instance. You can't come in here.
Yeah.
You know, it was a complete farce. You know, they weren't like mafia, even though people wanted to portray them as that. I think actually they made more money out of selling their T-shirts and paperback book than they ever did out of crime.
With regards to the other people involved, I mean, Eric Mason, says that he was up here that particular day that the Krays came up in the 60s.
Well, not to my knowledge, I don't know. I mean, there was about 5 or 6, maybe 7 people with them. I don't know who the other hangers on, I have no idea. I didn't pay that much attention. It's just that when I got out of the car, walked over, Reggie was outside, he came over, shook hands and said, look, they're stopping us coming in, we're not putting up with that. I said, well, I don't think you're going anywhere. This is Newcastle, the police won't put up with it. And they got back on the train and went off.
So I mean, in your view, they weren't very good criminals. Essentially, they
weren't criminals really. What did they do? You tell me a crime they successfully got a lot of money out of. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
What do you feel about them? As you say, that the film itself glamorised it, I suppose.
Well, it's totally out of context. They never had a club ballroom. I told you that their club was the front room of a Georgian house. That was it. It wasn't much bigger than this room we're in. That was their club. They had a boxing club as well. It was just an upstairs, just a gym. That's all it was. But any other thing, I don't know. I may have missed something in my travels, but I don't know of it.
Right. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think the only thing, I mean, there's much sort of 60s Newcastle as we can get. It's brilliant. We've got a lot of Krays stuff. What was it like to go out in the 60s in Newcastle? What was was it a...
No, it was nice. It's not... put it on.
We're still on, actually.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've not turned it off.
What it actually is, you must understand, society's changed, cultures have changed. Now we've got a drug scene. Drug scene's corrupted the criminal element. There's no principles anymore. They sell themselves and you could go out in the 60s, have a good night, take your wife out. There was no one effing and blinding. There was no fights. Now people go out to fight. They don't go out to drink and socialise.
Yeah.
The whole culture's changed. Do you know who's responsible for this drug culture we have?
For me, the police and the government, I suppose.
No, I tell you who it was. It's Michael Howard. First of it started, let me explain, in prisons. The prison staff, when people used to have a smoke, cannabis, they didn't mind because they have a smoke, go back to the cell, no fights. Who fights on cannabis? Nobody. You know that. When they make hooch in the prisons, they start drinking, they want to fight everybody. So the police, the prison staff turn a blind eye to people smoking cannabis. Mind you, most of them used to do and bring it in. But then Michael Howard, because of journalistics and politics and that, hidden agendas, we don't know. Oh, we're going to have drug testing in prison. And, right. But what they didn't realise that cannabis stops in the system for 28 days, right? So they brought this mandatory drug testing. So people who smoke cannabis went away from cannabis because the residues in the blood and they could test. They go on heroin. And when they're on heroin, it stops in the system 24 hours. So he converted the whole prison system from cannabis over to heroin. The heroin now, they come in, people who didn't smoke, they'd run a line of the dragon. And you've got more junkies in prison through the creation from Michael Howard and this policy, mandatory drug test. And that's what created. I said the same thing on the Right Stuff program, the Right Stuff. They look surprised. But this culture was created by the government. Well, not this particular government at the time, but Michael Howard. But people, they've got no vision. They jump, the press, they jump on things, exploit things. All people in Lay Hill are bringing drugs in this. So an MP wants his vote, he doesn't care what it's about, It's like all this ethnic problem. It's created by MPs for votes. That's all it's about.
So, like, I mean, in your day, in a typical night out in Newcastle on the tiles, what time would you start and what time would you finish?
Well, come on. Officially, the clubs finish about 2. But you'd go out, say, 9, 10 o'clock at night or early, and it varies what type of club you wanted, what type of social life you wanted to drink it. If it was a drinking club, you go out early, have a meal in the club, like Stage Door, places like that. Or if it was a later club, you go to the Dolce Vita, you know, where late cabarets and that. I mean, when I had to Piccadilly, I used to put an early show on at 8 o'clock, and the first cabaret was mediocre, but it was just to attract new people. And the second cabaret was a good start to get people in for the casino upstairs. That was it, you know.
And what would the cabaret consist of? What kind of entertainment?
Well, you have a good star, you know. Most of the clubs had a top star, remember. Like Tom Jones used to come up, Humperdinck, you know, you name them, they used to come up.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how it was. But as I say, the economy went down and working clubs started closing. There wasn't enough money to go around. The big bands, they didn't have the club, but when the Batley Variety Club closed, for instance, they used to have the big venues, could afford bands, etc. But working clubs couldn't afford that. But what I used to do, I used to have stars come up, mediocre, to get working men's clubs, and the top stars used to go into the Piccadilly, we'd have them in there for the late night show. I've had some terrible shows as well. Give you an example, I had an early show, a guy came, he said he's a fakir, you know, one of those Indian guys, lays on mats. Him and his wife came up, and when I was talking to him, he said he was nice enough, but he was one of those sandwich short of the picnic sort of thing. And I said, well, what do you do? He said, I do fakir work and all that. I said, well, that's all right. Early show, I wasn't really interested in. Anyway, so he started, he comes on stage, and he's getting hat pins and pulling needles through his chest. And then, to top it all, there's people eating, remember, they get a block of wood, she puts on the table, and you know, somebody's been on Newcastle Brown now, she gets a 4-inch nail, puts it in his tongue and gives him a hammer and a knock in his tongue. Well, this woman, she fainted, and she would have drowned in the vicious wire. You see, they pulled her up all her face in one. So I said to him, I said, look, cut that out, we can't have no blood on no show. People are eating, they can't have that. He said, oh, I have another one with fire and no blood. I said, that's okay. Well, the Piccadilly Club at the time, it had fishing nets in the ceiling because it was a converted warehouse, you see. And the big floats, we had lights in them, and it was very impressive in the dark, you know, in the night. Anyway, so he comes out with tapers and fire, and I think, wow, that's very good. And then he's blowing fire. Well, he blew, and then he set light to the nets with the dust in them, and the fire, you should have seen the water poured down the extinguisher came on, you know. So, you know, he had some good shows, good cabarets, and terrible one. I'll never forget, I had to pay him off, and he came and gave me a butane, empty butane canister. He signed it with best wishes from him.
Well, what was the capacity of that of your place? I mean, how many people did you get in?
Oh, you get about 80 up. Well, in the cabaret room,
yeah.
You get about 80. Then you had a casino upstairs, and you had the second floor was a bar.
And would there be a door charge?
No, you don't have charges in those days. You know, it was entrance.
And what was the average cost of a pint?
Now you're going back. You know, to be true, I can't remember prices, you know, and that.
Was it a good earner though? Was it a good
Oh, yeah, excellent earner, you know. Well, the casino was, you know, it was very good. But, no, it was nice, you could take your wife out and, you know, socialise, and never had problems, you know. All right, you get people who have too much to drink, especially the Newcastle Brown Ale, you know, we used to call it Journey into Space. I tried it once, and I walked my friend home, and he walked me home. We're going on 3 times, and about 5 o'clock in the morning, we're still walking each other home. And that's how potent that was. But they've changed the recipe, apparently, now, the formula.
I mean, like the way the city is now, you have like separate areas, I suppose, for separate people, you know. I mean, you've got the Pink Triangle, you've got the Big Market, which is like the younger generation
Is
still.
it? Yeah.
You've got like the, you know, it was a lot smaller in those days, and there wasn't as many licensed premises, was there really? I suppose?
No, there was clubs, and you didn't get people on the streets like you do now. And there wasn't as many clubs, bars, there was pubs, and but it was a more intimate type of relationship, you know, because your Geordies, you know, they're very friendly people, aren't they? And I mean, you can go out in London in that period, you live there, you go in the bar, no one to talk to you, you know, but you come up here and you sit and you walk in and someone to talk to you at the bar immediately. It's a different relationship. You know, you can be very lonely in big cities. I remember I was in Paris once, I'd never been so lonely in my life. I had to wait 3 days to meet someone on business and I was stuck in that city. I never had some boring, you know, so, but that couldn't happen up here.
What was it like? I mean, you know, you had the celebrities coming up. Did you have, you know, was there the same kind of culture with like the Newcastle United footballers? Did they used to come down?
Yeah,
to the
they
venue?
used to come up to the club and Sunderland players. But you remember, you must understand, in those 60s, footballers weren't so high profile, although they didn't get big salaries. There were no millionaire footballers, you know. You know, your friend, what's his name, Joe?
Joe Allen.
Joe Allen, I mean, what was his wage would be in those days?
120 quid.
Yeah, that's big money. So Johnny Heenan, you know, another. What would they get? 120 quid. You can't buy a bottle of wine for that now, can you?
No.
So this is different. So it's a different type of culture.
Do you ever wish that you'd, you know, if you know, you'd lived a bit later? Do you know, are you happy that you lived in the 60s? Because we're here at such like a, you know, it's such a celebrated time almost.
Well, it was. It's a lot,
the Beatles
lot
and
of myth about it still, you know. The psychedelic age.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, I think everyone used to try LSD, try it once, see what it's like. One thing about LSD, you couldn't overdose on it. But no, it was a different. People were free, caring, they were more into it, more loving, understanding. Now it's, I don't know, this drug culture's, society, there's no respect for the elder, no respect for parents anymore. It doesn't happen. I mean, you take Asian cultures, there's still respect for the elders of the family. We've lost that. You're in cases where sons are beating their mother up. You've never heard a thing like that in the 60s, would you?
Did you find? I mean, you were streetwise
Yeah.
anyway. You know, did you find when you came up here that you were accepted? You know, because a Cockney coming into Newcastle, I suppose, in those days, would be maybe looked upon as a bit strange. You know, did you find that you settled in and?
No, I had never any problems whatsoever. You must understand, the first time I come up, I was on the run from Women's prison, and you know, in business, I was well accepted. Don't forget, I wanted credit from the bank, St Martin's Bank in Gray Street, went there for credit, telling him I've got £50,000 put in the bank, but I'd like advice from his accountant first. I'd had a cheese sandwich in my briefcase, but I got away with it. So I got, well, you couldn't do that now, you know. But no, it was a little gullible in that sense, but I've never had any problems up here, honestly, never.
I mean, Get Carter obviously encapsulates that era, I suppose. You know, and obviously there's always been, you know, a mention of yourself, you know, almost being portrayed in that film. You know, coming from London, coming up the road. You know, what do you think about that? And
well, you must understand, how the film Get Carter came about. I had a company in London called Carter Stafford. My business partner was Ken Carter. It was a fruit importing company, and that's how the name arrived. But I used to be very friendly with a girl actress called Jill Bennett. So when I was arrested for the murder, I sent her a dossier for some help. You know, I sent numerous dossiers out, and she just married this John Osborne, the playwright. So instead of getting help, they turned it into a film script, and I made the film Get Carter. But we had an injunction placed on it prior to it coming out because of the appeal. And they changed it round, where the brothers had changed round, I'm one of the brothers, etc., etc. And they had to kill me on the beach instead of getting life. No, but it's changed around drastically. They used incidents from New Murder, etc., and they used the house that we had at Dryden Hall, which we bought purely as a guarantee against the fruit machine business, you know, that's all. But they actually use that, you know.
is it a good, you know, the film itself, is that an accurate depiction of 60s Newcastle? Would you say, for people to look at it?
Yeah, the actual, if you're talking about
not the
the
story
Newcastle
itself.
like that, yes, to an extent, I'd say it's a good, because they're making the film at the time of that period that it was.
Sorry. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on.
Come in. Go and lay down.
Come on, Andy. Go on. Was it an accurate portrayal of Newcastle? Sorry.
Yeah,
He stuck in the middle.
Was it an accurate portrayal of Newcastle in this?
Yes, yes, it was. It was a good portrayal because, as I said, it was very.
Never worked with animals and kids. We'll try it one more time. You've got the picture now.
Yeah, we're right.
Sorry about that, but that
Right.
was it an accurate portrayal of Newcastle?
Yes, it was actually of the everyday life, the nightlife, etc. The villainy. Yes, it was. Porn was in its infancy, so I should say, yeah. Funny and strange enough about porn. Prior to that period, I went to an auction, the country house auction, and there was loads of Bibles in boxes, brand new Bibles, in the cellar. And I saw them, I thought, I purchased them, because about halfpenny each at the time, all brand new. And I don't forget when I sent back to the office, and my friend visited party said, "What do you buy Bibles for? Were you mad?" I said, "No, I've got an idea." But as I say, porn at that time, if you got a Tit Bit magazine and you had a woman showing her breast, it had a big black star over the breast and things like that. That's as far as porn goes. So I advertised this book in the Men Only Titbits, etc. with Ravelli saying this book has been banned for generation, coprophilic, necrophilic acts, homosexuality, incest, everything that's in the Bible I put in. And I must have sold 1,200 Bibles for 10 shillings each to perverts. So it was good, for that type of exploitation.
That's a brilliant story.
Villainy in Newcastle and villainy in London. How did it differ? London's a bigger place, obviously, but was there much difference? Was there,
there's a myth. Talk about the underworld. The average person, especially up here, thought the underworld was a doorway in Soho. You opened it up and went downstairs. It's a nonsense, And the only organised crime in this country that's ever been, or ever was at the time, was in the City of London, and they wore bowler hats. But there was no actual organised crime, there is more so to this day because of the drug scene. But in those days there was no organised crime. There was little groups worked together and went out on the pavement, robbed banks, posted on whatever. But there's no organised crime as we visualise the mafia, etc., etc. If you delve into that, that's exploited as well over there. But no, there wasn't any organised crime. There never was. As I say, the City of London, it's the only place. And now we know the government as well, don't we? Only when it comes to expenses, apparently.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a lot. Yeah, got a lot more. Right, we're there.
Okay, so the Piccadilly's, obviously it's not there anymore. A lot of these places have disappeared. But what happened to the Piccadilly, Dennis?
Well, there was a fire. The Krays got the blame for it. But I know Lander at the time, he didn't tell us, but he was in debt to the brewers for over 100 grand and all that, So I'm sure he was behind the fire, but the Krays got the blame for it, which I had nothing to do with. But later on I bumped into Reggie in London at Churchill's, and he said to me, we got the blame for that fire. I said to him, well, it's your reputation, you get the blame for anything. He said, yeah, and anyway, when I went down there, he was understanding that, but he liked the image that they created the fire and intimidate people, but they didn't commit the fire at all. Same as with the murder in our case, they themselves had nothing to do with that at all, really. There's all myths about the Krays behind it, but I'm sure it was a firm from Scotland arranged, that done it. And that's about all I can tell you in that aspect.
Brilliant.
I was wrong at the time, but I didn't meet this as a person. I couldn't see a great deal about that. Except the rumours. I think the main one, how can I answer what this is, Davy Finlay.
Right, okay.
I could see that. I think Davy Finlay would be the man. I think he's probably the only one who knows the full score on that.
I know Davy said he couldn't, definitely. I mean, really, if you can, I mean, what I'll say then is, what did you hear about the Krays coming?
Oh,
So then
see
you
what
can-
I mean, that's
so
right.
then
Well,
you can say, well, I heard that.
it was Davy. If there was any disagreement in any way, or they didn't want them, it would be. I heard it was Davy Finley.
Aye, and did he hear they got turned away?
He got a young club. I heard all that.
If you can give us like maybe it's just and that's hearsay, but as long as you make sure that you say it's hearsay, just say, well,
That's
I
right.
heard that they
I know
got
what
to
to
the
say.
club.
I know what you
If
mean.
they got to the club, they got turned away.
That's right. And yet there's photos of them sitting in the club. But how long were they in there for, as you say? And then I don't know.
Did you meet them? Did you? I mean, obviously, the bit of time you spent in jail. Did you meet them in there? Did you meet any of them?
No, I didn't go to long-term prison. That's part of me. That's why I didn't allow that to happen. I'd done things right.
Aye.
Heavy stuff
Escape
was
from
done
Durham,
right.
when you were in Durham, though.
I dressed as a woman.
They were never in. They were
I've
never
still
in
got the
there.
skirt. It doesn't fit as no man. Fuck no.
Classic.
I explain it in the book all that.
Right, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
We'll just
Yeah.
go with the flow. Just look at me.
Can I let you tell me to mine?
Aye, aye.
Yeah.
It's all atmospheric.
That's right, aye. What are you going, Steve?
Right, just about Newcastle in general first. What was Newcastle like in the 60s for you? What can you describe it?
Well, as I say, I was brought up in County Durham. Actually, believe it or not, I'm not really a Newcastle man. A lot of people doesn't realise that. And it was the late 50s when I was set in Newcastle from the orphanage place, and I just remember it being. Especially the pubs in particular and whatnot was like spitting sawdust type of pubs, you know, like rough type of pubs. And I ended up getting in with the crowd, you know, the villains, and then I went to Borsal and stuff like that. And it was after the Borsal, I sort of wanted to belong somewhere, because I had come out of the orphanage, you know, you don't really, and I just remember it being the 60s was more the Teddy Boy stuff, the razors and they used to use chains on of bicycles and gang fights, and I've actually fought in them type of fights years ago. That was more like the 50s, early 60s. Then I escaped from Durham prison. Then I was in Liverpool, where I got on with the shebeens, the illegal nightclubs really, with the Jamaicans. And I was trusted there because I was on the television all the time for bugging from Durham sort of style. And it was when I eventually got caught and whatnot, when I came back, and then there was like Glaswegian people were coming through from Glasgow in the Jimmy Boyle era, you know, roughly his era. And I noticed these particular five used to come through in a car called, believe it or not, a Humber Super Snipe. It was a big black, if you had a gangster car, that was it. And it's come through, it's shown the razors. Very few firearms in. You didn't very heard of firearms in it. It was the razor, and I knew for a fact that the majority of the lads, tough lads as well, were obviously, and quite rightly so, quite nervous of these. I'm not saying frightened, but certainly very cagey with these Glaswegians who used to come through to Newcastle. But to cut it short, as I explained in the book, I had the main one and I thrashed the main one, and the fled from Newcastle never to return again, basically, which is how I became known, and I got to know obviously other characters in the Newcastle crime world.
Was that the normal kind of reception for anybody who came to Newcastle trying to be heavy?
Well, funny enough, it's been said to me many times that said to me about me that you actually fought your way to the top, because I wasn't known, because I'm not even a Newcastle man. You've got to remember that. I wasn't streetwise, you know, like others, and when you're cocooned in an orphanage, you just know nothing. So in a way, I was quite green. I had to find out what life was all about, sort of style. And I wanted to belong somewhere, and it happened to be in the crime, the pubs I was getting in, people I was meeting. Then I went in Borsal, and then that's how it all started. And but then days, as I say, and then later on in the 60s, the area Dolce Villa opened, and all these type of clubs and Stage Door, There's many, Mayfair, Billy Botto's was one, another one on Shields Road. And by then I started getting known, because I'd more or less disciplined several top names basically. And
Go on, sorry.
Go on, sorry, go on.
so
You get it if you need to.
now I'm just going to turn off actually. Hello? Yes, alright, good. I'm just trying to I'm just saying, just while you're there, I'm still with Stevie Wraith and his pal there. I'm just saying, how was that book gone now, Glad? In the shops and all that, what's it been?
Ryan.
Alright, I'll catch you later, Pet. Right, let's put that down.
Just that bit you came up with about the
It's whatever interests you, I can elaborate a little bit on it, if I can.
Yeah.
So what bit were you on with?
The bit about the Glaswegians is an interesting
Oh,
story. But you know,
well,
just an answer about them. You know, if people came to the northeast, is that the kind of welcome they got if they came to try and step on the criminals' toes?
Yes, you always get a kind of a tough mentality. You know, this is our manner sort of style. But these particular five from Glasgow had every reason to be confident, because I'll say they were actually sure you could see the flashing blades in the one. These, and I've used a blade. I once cut a man's ear off. It was when I was in Manchester in Moss Side. I was just young at the time. I'd done the run from Durham, and you know the way it's got to be. And I'd done a bit of business for somebody, and you visit, you're going to go like that, and your finger would be off. That's how dangerous they were, them blades. People doesn't realise how dangerous them blades were. Just like that, and your finger would be off. So and that's, you know, some of people are fine. So after I'd done the main one, and I gave them a public fashion in a place called Imperial, where you had Bull next to it and all the land. So you know the way I actually put it in my book is that the praise was heaped upon me. Then people took notice of me. That's the way it's happened with me. Because as I say, I was in Newcastle Island.
What attracted you to that lifestyle? You know, you said you went, obviously...
Well, the wrong thing was, after the orphanage, my mother had done jail and all that, but we didn't know much. When you're younger then, you don't in prison about it, but since then, of course, we've learned that she was in jail, because at the time I didn't know none of that. So that the sentence, when they put us in a hostel, that's when I come in a hostel in Jesmond in Newcastle, and I beat. I was just sick of all of the brutality, you know, in the homes, and I beat the so-called warden, because of a warden, and I beat him up, and coincidentally happened, I didn't realise at the time, but he'd fostered my sister Margaret, who's in the book as well, and treated her like a dog, and I call that in the book poetic justice. And it was after that I just says, there's nobody going to treat me like shite again after my childhood and all that. I just didn't fear anybody, and I still don't to this day. Anybody could walk in the house, Stephen, honestly, if they challenge me, it'll be immediately attacked. I'm just like that, I can't help it.
You know, when you start off on this criminal path, did you actually see this as a... Did you say, I want to be at the top of that tree? You know, if you want to be
No, it's when you look back on it. It's when you look back on it. You can psychologically. I really wanted to belong. I was wanting to belong somewhere, because I was a nobody basically, and the family either really. You can understand. So, but it's when you look back on it. I wanted to belong, and it was my mother. That's where I'm coming to. The sentence to my mother of all people, a woman I didn't know, and they just stuck with it, and I'm standing in front of this woman who happens to be my mother, and I wasn't there a few weeks, and I was no fixed aboard basically, and I was just roaming around the streets and all that, and then there was just one man, and an old name which a lot of people the older people will remember, Tommy Lamb, who had 100-strong gang, and he got 6 months for some reason. During that time I happened just a bit of work that happened to tan 3 or 4 of his pals, you know, his top pals, and so my name started getting into him in the jails and all that. Then he came out, and then he was really had no other choice but to challenge me, you see. You know, the way it goes, it's all pride, younger, the chest row, and the women's looking, saying what's going to happen here. Anyway, but in the end, I was sitting in the railway canteen, which was a favourite place for after drinkers for supper, like a cottage pie. That was, I'll never forget the cottage pie. And one of Tommy Lamb's henchmen came in, and I was sitting with Billy Dixon, big Billy Dixon, and he came, and one minute he says, Tommy wants to go round the back. And this how I'm not boasting, but Billy was there and still alive now. And I says, we'll have him drink cottage pie. And this was the top man in Newcastle at the time, and I said, we'll have him drink cottage pie. And I ate my supper, went round the back, and he said, right, we're going to have a fair fight. And so I thought he meant, no, just fisties. So no word of a lie, I knocked him down 3 times. Bang, I thought, and to myself, I thought this fella was a... And anyway, inevitably it got a right tough fight, and he was a tough lad. From Markstown, he was a tough kid, and we got really struggling. And it went on for a long time, for a fight, it went on for a long time. And then we just got separated by what you call the railway police at the time. Used to knock around that area. This was behind the railway canteen. And then Tommy obviously gained respect to him. He says, where you living? I says, anywhere really. And I went to his house and he put us up and so that was an episode there. So all these things got my name known over time. And but we don't design it that way. It's not planned that way. It just happens. And that happens with most villains. Also happens. You don't stand up at the age of 15 and say, I'm going to be a criminal. It doesn't work like that. It just happens through fate and circumstance. That's how it works. You don't just say, I'm going to be a villain. And of course, through the homes, the treatment I had by the authorities, the systems in the homes, I had no cause to respect anybody in authority. Because when we tried to run away, we just threw her back in, no investigations, no nothing. And all this, and I just had no cause to. And I think that's what made me, I just turned my back on it all. People like myself, you look at the systems and you don't like what you see. So you've got no respect, so you just turn your back on them and you become what you call underworld. That's the way they use it. You live a different world, you have your own free spirit, make your own decisions, because you can just see through all them, which we now know on the news. The real Krays criminals is in HM prison, Westminster. They are Krays criminals who has been stealing your tax money for donkey's years, and I'm supposed to be a criminal. I'm supposed to be the bad guy. But I wouldn't see that. I wouldn't do what they've been doing for decades. But we've seen through them for years, through the systems. I could write all things I've seen, screws in prisons, or what the crimes they've committed, unbelievable. It's so it all sort of snowballed from there, and then I decided to well, if I'm going to take this game, so I've done a couple of sentences for really silly things, it's stupid, not professional at all. And I thought, well, if I'm going to, by then I was full of tattoos and all that, which I wish I hadn't done. I've regretted them for years, only daft and stupid. That was in Borsal. And I thought, well, it's then when I said, right, if I'm going to be in this game, I'm going to do it right. And so in regards learning about things, I would just see if it was like a vault or something. I would get all the details on that vault, or big safes, or whatever it might be, alarm bells, because they just send you the brochures, because they want to sell this stuff, it's all to be sold. And they just tell you everything. You just learn it. So nobody has done that, so they always come to me if they wanted something, because they didn't realise that you can get all this information given sort of style. And I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'll do it professionally. And it just snowballed from there. And I just started getting better and better at it. And then in regards to heavy stuff, I did do heavy stuff, but to be honest, it wasn't necessary to do a lot of heavy stuff. Like some people would do all the time, get caught 12, 15 years, get caught again 9 years. It just wasn't necessary. So I was making fortunes in my frame, and it was for a long period. And that's how it eventually, then your name in the grapevine, you don't actually stand, you don't got the newspapers, and I was a target criminal for many years. I had a photo of me in just about every police station, certainly in the northeast. A big photo of us. That's how serious it was, and I was getting followed all over the place. Even my solicitors were saying, "What you doing, talk on the phone?" And I was on my way with all that. and I just and for a long period I was if I say something, I'm not bragging, but anybody will tell you I was the biggest money earner at the lot. Simple as that. Until you say they all want to work with us.
What were the police like in the 60s? You know, we've had a lot of fickle.
Well, in them days you had what you call verbal, where there was no tapes and nothing like that. So even if you had said nothing at all, if you had a particularly bad squad on your case, they would just put down something that hadn't even been said. You would dispute it, and of course the problem was in courts. If you call them liars, you know, all that type of thing. So they've been on a planned stuff. I've had stuff. I once got nearly 200 grand's worth of cash and jewellery, and there's some really big. But that 200 grand now would be £1 million. You've got to remember that in today's money. And something happened in it. So they got part of the jewellery, and amongst that jewellery was a couple of big diamonds, mind, flawless bluey whites. And so they knew I'd done the graft, but they couldn't prove it. So you get done for handling. And but by the time I got the list back and we got charged on it, they had gone missing. Police had obviously stolen. That's why I say in the book, I say if they say diamonds are forever, I said, I wonder if that policeman still got them. I can say that in the book. So I had all that. So I knew what you were up against, and I've had the pulled guns on us and everything, and Acorn Road, Jesmond, and to be honest with you, I'm not because I'm retired now, I can see it. I didn't fear it at all, and now there was like a Starks in, which it wasn't at that time when Starks was type of job. All kept them just like that. The only thing I was concerned about was it looked like my gun. And I thought, she hasn't fucking got it, not mine, is it? A lot of people, I just don't panic. I've never been a panicker. You must stay calm in this game. I've been on jobs where I've seen people, I've seen the nerves, I've actually seen it, I've just relax. We've got control, and you've got the ability to do that, and I feel I can manage people, which if you ask the right people to work with, they'll tell you that. And this is why they want to work with me, obviously. I could John Loxley or all that, they just want to work with me. And and then I just got more professional, and then in regards to the so-called gangsters, because I never, it's not really my persona, for all the mentions in the Godfather in the book. I mean, I'd rather have said grandfather, to be honest with you. But it's just the way it is. With them type of people, the gangs, you know, the gangs and that, I just didn't fear anything, you see, and they knew that. That was the thing, they knew that. They knew, because even when I was younger, the one people I'd driven people, the big ones were frightened of, I'd chase them out of town, basically, myself. So naturally, people, the people, see, some people goes into be hard men. They just want to be like gangsters. They want to be the hard man. They want to. I was never like that. It was just the way things worked for me. I didn't design it that way, but people knew that I've just got no fear for them. I'm just they just don't. They just know that you know, as long as they don't challenge me, get on with their own business, and if they challenge me, they just get immediately attacked. And fortunately, over the years, there's nobody really wanted to, and I've scolded some top people. I've threatened gangs from different areas. Like one gang, one brother had given a slap to for some reason, and they were supposed to be all dangerous men. I says, yeah. I says, when he's all come up here to my house, there was a few little brothers and that, I said, I'll scry you for my breakfast. I'm still waiting for him. In regards to Bobby Snowden, when Panda shot him, it was a key because he was a top man, but Bobby Snowden was not really a proper villain. This is what I'm coming to. You've got the right characteristics to be a proper villain and to know how will go the furthest. That's what it's all about. Who's going to go the furthest? He was more of a fighter. So you've got fighters and you've got villains who are extremely dangerous, who will kill you. Snowden would never dream of anything like that. They're not dangerous men at all. They're not dangerous at all. They're just one dangerous people. Could fight, big lads, but that's no good. Not when it comes to the real villains who will kill you. and that was a psychological thing that a lot of these hard men, fighting wise, didn't understand, and that's why they die at 34 and all young ages. These type of lads, Lee Duffy, even good lad, I've met him. And it's tragic in a way, but they didn't know the psychology of a proper villain.
What was Bobby Snowden shot for?
There was some dispute in we used to call it the Spit and Comet at the time, this pub, opposite the Central Station. And Panda had some dispute with the manager in there, who was a close friend of Bobby Snowden. But obviously, I can't remember every detail, obviously, but it was some of them that started festering this argument and this and that. And Panda, obviously, and because I'll give Panda credit. He's done a bit of boxing, I think. I think Kenny did a bit of boxing, and he had a good dig on him as well, I think. And so it all come to a push where it all happened in the end. There was more than one went to his door. Went to Kenny's. In a way, Kenny would wish it could have been different circumstances. But it had been somebody else's house, and he popped up and then got away. He might not go up the 8 years. But unfortunately, it probably wasn't his fault. They came, you see, so in a way he's got to protect his family. Somebody shot him. And this is the point I was getting to. So after he was shot, Bobby was obviously well respected by a lot of people, a lot of ways, and it was a hell of a good fighter and all that type of thing. And probably was the best fighter. You know, he was quite older but just one of them lads. And but I was the only one, Steve, because what he should not have done, because he had been in jail for all he wasn't what you call a proper villain. He'd been in jail, done 3 years for crime and whatnot. He should never have grasped him. He should never have grasped on Panda. Panda should never serve that year, because Bobby's name was built by violence. Then he gets violence done to him, and he goes to court and gets a man 8 years. And I was really annoyed at that. And I was the only one who spoke out about it. The other ones were a bit, for saying anything. They were thinking it's saying, shit, I've smashed them, grassing them, that type of thing. And I just went quite open about it. I said, the man's a fucking grass. I said, as simple as that. Hard man, I said, he's a fucking arsehole. He said, just getting a man 8 years, the violence he's dished out. And he gets popped himself and he gets a man 8 years, he's a fucking grass. And I'm sitting in the Pilgrims Club, which was the only pub at the time, which was open after 3 o'clock. That's a lot of business people got there, and actually I got quite a bit of work from all these business people. But it was that type of place. And the Grievesons, the Shepherds type of people, they'd get up there. And then these two of Bobby Snowden's sidekicks, there's more a sidle up to us, and they says, Bobby's not very pleased. I says, are you not? I said, what's his problem? He said, just what you've been saying. And then in the barmaid, I said, yeah. I said, you got a pen? And I said, sure. And address, phone number. I said, give him that. I said, tell him I'm waiting for him. And I'm still waiting to this day.
Was that the end of Bobby Snowden in Newcastle?
At the end, he says, you notice one thing. I had a lad here, Jackie Pan, I won't mention his name because it's happened now, it's all history. Well, as you know, Jackie popped somebody. And one thing that a lot of people doesn't observe, which I have, is that everybody who's been shot in the northeast since I've been here, not one of the people who's been shot has ever returned to challenge again the assailant. Never. Isn't that strange? If that's Arthur Tams, all hard men, mind. Arthur Tams, Snowden, name them all, there's loads of them. Harry Perry, the list goes on. All hard men, and not one ever, for some reason, I don't know if it's a psychological thing, has never went back to the one who shot them. Never. That's a bit of history for you. Nobody thought about that, not one.
Next day into Panda, really. You've got a lot of time and respect for Kenny. He's a character, isn't he?
He is a character. Kenny is a character, and he's a game man, obviously, very game man. He'll admit that he faulted that once when he got that big sentence that time, but some had went wrong there. I don't know what it was there, but all I can say, he was a member of the A team. and they were good workers. Machine Gun Kelly, Alan, and I just wish, as I say, they had been in a bigger place, London, where they got better card marks, better information, better intelligence to do, because they could have done big work. Their style, the way they do it. But it's only a village compared to London, obviously. You're not going to get bank managers, which happens in London, who's going to mark your card and say, do you want any of these 100 security boxes and stuff like that. It happens down there, not down here. That's why you get the really big jobs done down there. And and then the other jobs that get done down there, Stephen, they seem to all get caught within a fortnight. And you think of any job, tell me a big job that happens down south that they got away with. I bet you it'd be hard to think of one.
No, you can't think of one. Only jobs you get away with now are those on the computer.
Oh well, they're in the position. I find that boring. I wouldn't want to make a million that way. I like to be on the front line. It's a more adventurous and it's more, you've got to use imagination better. But these lads, these men, good luck to them. They've done the positions of education and all that, and then work in the city. Well, get on with it, you know. But it wouldn't be my style. You had
the A team, as you say, but you were very much an individual, weren't you?
Yes, that's the thing about me. I wasn't a gang man. I mean, I think I see in there when I got the post office van, which I was not particularly pulled for because I was on my toes for some reason, staying out the way for some reason, and with a bit of graft. Because what I used to like to do, because what happened with me, she didn't get too successful, because anything that was done, like me, Joe Camello, we done some lovely piece of work. You know, a lot of money, and today's money, a real lot of money, and obviously the busies would have the shortlist, obviously, you know, who is capable of that. It's obviously a ratings thing. Who is capable of doing that particular work? That's sophisticated bit of work and things like that. I just know for a fact I'd get a pull, and sure enough they'd come, but they'd never find out, nothing there, no evidence. And a nice bit of history for you is when, I don't know if ever you've been heard of when the police in Gateshead were doing loads of burglaries with the panda cars. And Sergeant Story, funny enough, was the fence. He used to buy the stolen property off these comrades, off his co-officers, whatever you call them. And this was big news all the time.
So the 70s?
Aye. Big news all the time. It was big news all the time. I was all over the place, and all these pensioners were just sitting watching these panda cars sticking doors and everything. But the arseholes were just pinching tellies and fuck, and I should have come to me, I'd tell them what to do, they big pop of diesel and probably around it. And they had the panda cars, they've got everything. I mean, they were a panda car, I mean, they should have had fortunes. But anyway, obviously so at the same time, I had done a lovely piece of work. And I actually said to the funny, the woman, she's one of my partners, I was just phoned there. Oh no, sorry, was the one before that. And she said, I said, I'm going to get a tug here. I said, so just be prepared. And same again, it was another large sum for that day. It was about 170 grand, me and Joe Camello, and somebody else, was three of us. Me and Joe done the job, with somebody on like a walkie-talkie, you know. And sure enough, I got the tug, and the tug was to Clifford Street, police station. And they said, because they couldn't fit, no, and it says, this is exactly the time with the Gateshead carry on. It says, our intelligence, there's a little dicky bit, tells us you were responsible for a very serious, there was a large sum, blah, blah, blah. So I said, that's strange. I said, because my little dicky bit tells me it was yours. That's why I'm getting rather confused here, aren't I? That's why I'm getting confused here. I've heard it's yours, you're saying it's me. I said, where do I go from here? So I cannot, because there were 14 burglaries all over the place, you see, so it was perfect timing. And they were fuming, Steve. And released us within 2 hours. That was following time. As amazing that it was yours.
You touched earlier, off camera, about like a typical night out.
Oh,
yes. You mentioned about like what it was like going into a venue and.
Well, what happens?
So can you touch on that?
Well, what happens for some reason, when you become known, is in the crime world, for some reason it's a fascinating. It is a fascinating game, to be honest with you. And if I was an outsider looking at it, I would find it exciting. A lot of people would love to be villains, basically, because I've actually said that to me. This is, I just cannot do it. And of course, the big whip's waiting to put them inside as well. Of course, it's all they've got to have the right characteristics. And what was the question again, Steve?
Going on a night out. What was
That's
it?
right.
On a night out?
So what happens? So the more successful you get, obviously you get more well known, and things like that. To the stage where you're able to walk in any club, any club. But the bouncers knew the score. Everyone knew the score. You got big spenders, obviously, which was beneficial to the club. And then they would order we'd get a big table of cables put together, whichever the situation was. And for my say there might be 7 or 8 of us just having a bit talk on that. And our table would be usually a little bit not secluded, but a little bit, you know. And I would see how I would drink by the bottle, you know, gin, Bacardi, and I see caskets of ice and the whole lot set there for us, and they were really looked after. And I had that situation, Newcastle, Cleveland, Hartlepool areas, and all them areas, which it's just the way it worked. It just throw crime.
What were the clubs like? You know, what kind of entertainment? What was your
well, there was no cabaret stuff on then. There was no cabaret stuff, singers and Bobby Webber sometimes. You said Bobby Webber and people like that would come in and things like that. And then I have a spell with just ordinary music. But it was no cabaret stuff and meals and different places. Like, you know, and the stage door. The stage door. The funniest thing about him was, I'll tell you what I will say about that place there. Dennis used to get in there. Was the manager there. I just can't think of his name offhand. But I tell you, a very brave man he was. You know, it didn't matter who anybody was, mind. And he wasn't a fighter. No, he just was one of these people. I often wondered. I often wonder how he never got rang in. Really, I know his house once got attacked, and I don't know, burned it down. I done something really smashed his place and everything up. And despite all that, he was still Mr. Straight-Faced. He's just one of these. And I've got to say, the man had a lot of courage. You know, I mean, I didn't bother with the fella, but other people did, you know, and he was just one of them people. And that was the situation in the clubs.
Which one did you used to frequent a lot?
There was one in particular, Steve, to be honest with you, with the, just whatever took me fancy on it. It's North Shields, Paddy Devlin. I used to go to, I would say Paddy Devlin, and I forget, there was a Pickwick in Whitley Bay, Paddy in the North Shields, I forget some names of the clubs.
I'm just thinking of the Dolce Vita because the Krays were photographed in the
Yes, I've been there many times, and in the lads, you get footballers in there. I actually met Malcolm McDonald in there, Super Mac. It was at the Terry Club, more like upmarket Terry Club. And
can you remember much about the interior of the Dolce Vita?
It was smart. It was, that's what I'm saying. It was upmarket. I mean, compared to Billy Butler's, you know, it was up all. And a lot of faces got on there, but it wasn't a place I went too often. But I did go there, and I wasn't into a lot of people in the gambling place. That one I can't remember. I don't went to that one so much. And it just seems to happen that the more successful as a villain, you get better treatment of just about everybody. There's something that's and of course I've never been a bully, Steve. I've never tried. It's a kind of respect that in the end you get. Because I've always believed that, as I said before, a lot of people would love to be villains because they don't even like the systems that's controlling them. They see everything. They know it's not right, but that you've got to have the right characteristics to be a villain. If you haven't got them, forget about it. You just end up all your life in jail.
We'll touch on the Kray twins now. You know, just your own opinion on the Krays, and obviously, I know you didn't
No, I
the
didn't.
Krays when they were up here, but what did you hear about the
Yes,
Krays?
well, what I heard about it was that I remember hearing about them coming in on the train into the central station. And they went to some club, some pub, which it's been well illustrated which one it was, and that there was some argument with certain people, and I've heard that the main one, if it is true, the 100% that they were actually chased out of Newcastle, I've heard it was Davy Finlay, who owned the Club of Go-Go at the time. He was the man there, and I might say it was a hard lad. He was a pal of mine now. He was a very hard man as well, mind. He's another one who didn't fear anybody. He was that type of man, Davy, and I would suspect the truth lies with Davy Finlay.
Just your opinion about what you heard about the Krays, and judging them by your own standards, they probably weren't the best of criminals.
No, well, obviously anybody who commits murders in front of an audience is not the brightest. You leave that to the audiences to Ken Dodd and people like that. It's not the brightest thing to do, really. Any heavy stuff I've done, I would never do in front of an audience, in front of anybody. I wouldn't tell anybody. You plan it properly as you would plan a serious robbery. You just got to plan it properly. It just happens, then forget about it. And that's what real villains should do. I think the Krays, the word that I think they've obviously thought they were invincible, which is fatal. Nobody's invincible, and they've never realised that, and that's been their fate. 30 years in prison and died in jail.
You came across Frankie Fraser and Charlie.
Yes, Charlie Richardson. I met actually Frankie Fraser a couple of times in Liverpool prison. I've seen him, but not as pals outside, not like that. And he a very courageous man, mind, but not the way he should be doing it, jail. Rather like Bronson. There's a book of Bronson's there. Bronson. It's not the wise way to do it. If you see when they've got you, I've always believed when if you're going to do a sentence and they've got you in there, trying to beat them the way that Bronson does and Frankie Fraser did, you're just inflicting pain on yourself, and also the system is basically laughing at you, just keeping you in a box for year after year after year in solitary confinement. I think the secret is to. I was able to, certainly me, and if you use your brain, is to create an impression that you're kind of a model prisoner, but at the same time break every rule in the book and get out on the day you should be getting out. That's what a sensible person does.
Touch on other people. Now, Dennis Stafford.
Well, Dennis, I'd say I didn't knock around with these people as such, because I'd say I was never that type of bloke, but I had met Dennis on that occasion during them days. I remember the E-type Jag in that notorious case, and I've always believed that they should never have been found guilty with this little scrape of so-called paint. I think that then they could pick up and some just flick it anywhere they want. I think they were definitely stitched up. There was no evidence. They should never have been convicted, and but they were. And I met them then when they went into. When they got done, I happened to be on remand for some reason, and Dennis was put in the hospital. See, that's what they do when he was charged with murder. He went over the hospital. But Michael Lavaglio, I don't know exactly where they put him on remand, but certainly, but when he was convicted, see when I went a couple of times after that, after bugging from jail in 1963, earlier. They put you in patches, they put you in like the patches and okay, and you're on the ones, and you've got them there. They've got and they look through the what you call the Judas hole every half hour to make sure your base is still there. And I'll just say, still here, and then they just because that's their job. You said they've got to make sure you're still there, and so they just got their life sentence. And the next person to me who was moved in was Michael Lavaglio. He wasn't there long. He was shipped off to some long-term prison because he got just getting his life sentence, and And Dennis, of course, went to Ewing, the notorious Ewing, where in that place you had McVicker, and some of these, them kind of names at the time. And I'd give Dennis credit, mind, and they didn't like the way they were being treated there. It's just a very small unit, and they weren't getting treated right. And it took somebody like little Dennis, brave little man, to go in there and says, right, we're not having it. And he smashed the place to smithereens. He just got them, and after he got to the phone before they were able to snip it or whatever they wanted to do, and got the papers. He says, I'm phoning from there, because it was a notorious, Ewing was notorious then, for lifers and all that. And they just smashed it to bits. And you must, you've got to
Is that
respect.
the scene recreated on McVicker? The film McVicker?
Aye. It was Dennis Stafford. Even McVicker's escape. It was, I believe and certainly heard, and I'd never met, I've actually seen McVicker, and he was on the ones at one time just before he went, but a fellow called Angel Face Probin was the escape artist.
Wally Probin.
But the fittest of the two of them, when they did get out of that shower area, was John McVicker. Poor Probin, not very fit, he couldn't negotiate the obstacles, the whatever it was, and he was caught more or less straight away. And McVicker was a very fit man, he did get away.
I'll go back to two other people I want to mention, but just following up on that, you escaped from prison yourself. How did you do that?
Well, I've done it in a very cunning way, hence the name Cunningham. And well, I was just doing it in the sentence. There was nothing to do with the sentence. I had something I had in mind to do. I was going to do something very important to me. But I found myself doing a quick trial month. And I thought, well, how can I go? I've got to get out of here. So I engineered a situation where I could get a certain job in a certain place, where I could, so it's all in the book. And so I thought, right, I actually got the screw, believe it or not, to open the steel door. You understand, your own jailer, were condemned, with a friend of mine, condemned into it. And but also knew that with Ewing, because Ewing was, there was always had that the special wing there, they had a set plan for Durham. It was like a set plan within seconds, mind. The place was shut. In fact, if you look round Durham, I think it's only with 3 ways out of Durham city itself, where the jail is, only 2 or 3 ways out of it. But I was aware of all that. So I didn't want somebody, I could have fast cars and all, so no, so I just wanted me. But I knew for one thing was sure, I'd have to be a complete different person within seconds, because I only had a second start. And then I knew they'd be looking for, my description obviously, prison garb. That's the only thing they could go by. They wouldn't dream I was going to be changed within seconds into Owen. They wouldn't dream that. And of course, and I mean, the place was full of very, I can still picture this day, the place was full of Durham City Service, which is not a big place. I can still picture that it was a December, cold freezing night, and the fumes of the cars and all, and they stopped all the cars, there was butts going up. But I had decided I had 2 women with us who I'd brought the clothing. And I switched within seconds. And so I thought, better to be on a bus, just, it was when people come from work and all that type of thing, when it just gets in dark, I thought, might not check all the buses, but mind, everything was checked, and it was just chugging around like that. And I'm sitting in the back of the bus on this double decker. But by then, and I forget it, and then eventually doors open, then this police comes up the stairs, and I'm forgetting this woman says, what's happening, what's the matter? Because people want to get home and all that, you see. And this busy says, she's been escaped from Durham prison. And then you start walking along the aisle, just sort of looking like that. I know what they were looking for. A man made a description, which is in the book, with the short cropped hair, and the grey prison garb, and the striped blue shirt, but they weren't going to see that. They weren't going to see that. And he didn't. He seen a pretty woman there, and then he should give me a wink. And he's laughing, what are you laughing at? He's laughing away there. And he should give us a wink. Such was, and I was a completely different person. And then he just got off and just chugged away. And that's how I got out of Durham. So it wasn't Durham itself. It's getting out of Durham city was the problem. Which is why it was classed as one of the high security prisons in the country. And that's why they sent Southerners, villains. Frankie Fraser and all them came into Durham. A lot of people came. It was a dreaded prison for the Southern people. but it had a right tight security. Not the prison so much the prison itself, it was the getting out of the immediate area, because there was a set plan straight away and I had it in within seconds. The noise was amazing. I can still hear the noise now. The smoke, all the traffic, and extremely exciting.
Vince Lander was is a big name, obviously, mate.
Well, I've got
Michael Levaglio's brother.
Well, I've got to be honest. I had seen him before, but I did not know him. I didn't really meet him, to my knowledge.
Because he had a connection with the Krays.
He had a connection with the Krays.
The story goes that he'd ripped them off of £1,000, and one of the stories goes that was.
I have heard rumours of that type of thing, but I can't recall. I don't know if I met him. I may have done it, but yeah, it's slick back hair, that fella. I think I remember. But see again, they really Vince Lander wasn't a real villain. I don't believe Michael Levaglio was either. They were like business people, basically, putting the one-arm band machines in. Then something went wrong in regards to Sibbett, and Angus Sibbett, and he got one in the napper, basically. But I didn't want to go too far, because so they want to see a lot of these people weren't really villains. Like George Reynolds was involved in the one-arm banded business. There was other people that weren't villains. It just somebody, obviously, for their own reasons, and Angus Sibbett had to be sorted.
Two more names, Paddy Hallett.
A boxer. Paddy, I was a big lad. I found him reasonable. I was at the time. He seemed quite an amicable type of man. Done a bit of boxing and that. Until one night he got took problems with was it Bobby Snowden? Bobby Snowden. Who's the other one? Bobby Snowden. There's another fellow here, and where I think a blade was used. Him and Paddy, him and Snowden were going to have a fight or something, and somebody, I'm trying to think what it was, somebody used a blade or something, and they got, I think so, it was 5 years ago, and they got 5 years. And when he got the 5 years, Bobby Snowden, because he was a very powerful mind. I didn't actually see it because he was down the block at the time. I mean, I've been in the block myself, but not at the same time as him. And if he didn't feel he wasn't getting his rights, he was actually, even at the chamber pot you get there, he was actually, he could actually crush it. That's how powerful that man was, I'm telling you. And when he's in a rage. And, but he ended up getting 5 years. I'm just trying to think of the other lad's name. But Paddy himself, putting that in one part, but I think I recall that he did go against them, but it's ironical that Snowden done the same with Banda. He went against them, if I remember rightly, which he shouldn't have done, you see. I'm just against that, people standing in courts doing that, when the men in violence themselves.
Paddy is the only man, obviously, in this whole programme who has physical evidence of him with the Krays. He has got.
Paddy Hallett.
He's got two.
Oh,
he's got the two photographs with himself in the Dolce Vita with Joe Louis,
that's
the boxer,
right.
Ronnie Kray,
that's right.
and Reggie Kray sitting round a table in
that's
the Dolce
right.
Vita.
That's right.
And his story is that they came up to help him in that case against Bobby Snowden. They came up to sort things out, but.
Which could be right. Very well could be right, because it's like it's all folklore. It makes it interesting, actually. There's all kinds of things, but it's just. But Paddy Hallett, I remember, he was quite until that thing happened, and there was a running, as I say, that Snowden, when he got popped, he got panned at 8 years, and it's strange how it worked. But Paddy Hallett,
I'll take you into the last story, and that's about the Levy brothers. The Levy brothers, who, you know, Marcus and Norman Levy, they apparently picked the Krays up at the station. They came up on the train. They picked them up in a white Rolls Royce, and they took them to the Imperial Hotel, which was on
Jesmond Road.
Yeah.
I've been there.
And I mean, essentially, you know, the story is that they were up here for 4 days and looking after Billy Daniels, the club singer at the time.
Yeah, that name, he was singing around.
Frank Sinatra's son had been kidnapped in America. There'd been a kidnap attempt on Frank Sinatra's son, and the word was that the a part of the American mafia had asked
That's
the
right.
Krays to look after him.
I've heard about and read about all that.
Do you know about the Levies? I mean, it was
Funny of the Levies, to be honest, not a great deal. Because remember, a lot of these men would be older than me. You know, you mentioned Paddy Hallett, I'm sure. He's older than me. So you've only got to be 3, 4, 5, 6 years older to be in almost a different era. You know, it's so you've got to bear that in mind. But I did meet and was aware of a lot of these people. But in regards to the Krays story, you may never get the truth. Which makes it even more interesting. What is the mystery of this? What did happen? But I can take on and give you what I think. I think Davy Finlay would know an awful lot about that. Davy. If I'm wrong, Davy would no doubt David gives a bell. But I think Davy, because he wouldn't have anybody in pension. Because he owned the club, and he was just that type. He wouldn't have. And it was about that time when he came, and that's the stories I heard. That Davy Finlay was, if they'd been chased, I wouldn't put it past me. David would be one of them who would make sure that they left town. It's such a mystery. It's an interesting one, but it could very well be the one you chase. I've heard another one that the police advised them to leave. They were escorted to the centre station by the police. I've heard that one by people around at the time. There's so many different angles.
Yeah, Jack Vinton who was in charge of the police at the time, and Arthur Mackenzie who were hoping to talk.
Yeah, but at the same time, I couldn't imagine the Krays so fearsome the name and the power they had at the time would be. Because I don't think if I was in their position, and you know, obviously they'll have the right people with them, you know, with the right tools, and I just can't imagine. It's hard to think of anybody who could chase them out of the town. I think that's the wrong word that should be used. I don't think anybody would. I don't think anybody. I can't, and that's why I don't think we're getting to the bottom of it. Obviously there may be arguments and get out and all that type of thing being said, and then the goal gets snowballed and it all gets built up and exaggerated, and at the end of nobody knows what happened. But that's one thing to think about. The Krays were vicious people. And they thought they were invincible, and the people with them would have been tooled up. They agree with that. And I can't think of really in a way I mentioned Davy. If Davy would be if it is right, the war chased out. But I think getting chased out is too strong a word. I don't think the Krays were the type who would be chased from anyway. To be honest with you.
Did you come across Eric Mason? He was the last guy to be birched in the UK, but he claims that he came up to Newcastle with the Krays in the 60s, so he's quite vital to this. Did
you say he was a black man?
He's a white guy. He's
funny enough, I think I was once introduced to him. The name, does it ring a bell?
You'll meet him again because he's coming up on the 16th.
That's right. I've heard his name a few times. Well, he would be the one who.
Again, he could be interesting.
I've got a funny feeling the Krays were never chased from anywhere.
Yeah.
But too powerful. Even in Newcastle. Because remember, these were the men at the time before Newcastle who were basically killing people, man. I mean, they're not worried that they wouldn't. I don't even believe they were chased anywhere. You see them sitting in the club, quite relaxed. At the photo you see, but I just say, that's my opinion. I've got a funny feeling that they weren't. There's nobody cheating. It makes us all little sheep, you know. They were extremely dangerous men who had done it foolishly, you know, when they start and put it in front of other people and got themselves 30 years. But however, they were extremely dangerous men who will kill you. And you used to chase them on a train. Onto a train and go home. I can't say it.
Mario, that's brilliant.
Fantastic
interview that we start interviewing. I've got questions I want to ask.
Yeah.
I'm not writing these questions down. I'm doing it. That's we've just said. It might take a different.
But I thought it was a nice angle to finish off on.
Great angle.
When I'm saying
Brilliant.
I can't envisage anybody. These fellas were killers. Their men would have been armed. And at that time, I can't think anybody running about with guns. These men would not be frightened of a bunch of Geordies.
I agree. Like, I mean, the thing is,
that could be the answer to the whole
we
thing.
know for a fact. But the one thing we do know for a fact is
the media, mate, the media and the police would encourage the media to give the impression they were chased. In other words, Doylans, you know. But they were not. They were extremely dangerous men.
We know for a fact they didn't get chased because they were in the Dolce Vita.
So I'm always writing my
we know for a fact they didn't get chased.
Well,
that's one thing you know.
A lot of people love to say that. No, the Geordies, we chased the bastards away from Radges.
People who live on it.
But we've just discussed it there. My opinion is, I can't think of anybody. If there was any arguments or somebody more or less guilty in Newcastle, and if there was any of that, it would be somebody like Davy Finlay, who has been mentioning this. But the bottom line is, I don't think anybody really chased them men, from they were too dangerous.
I would agree.
They're not going to come with lollipops in their pocket. I mean, these are dangerous men.
Aye.
They were the top guys in the company, let's face it. As I say, and I'll just tell the truth either way. And they've done it their way, Steve, unfortunately. One thing that...